I'm only here one time in this world, and I want to maximize that as much as I can.
You've definitely done that.
I've been to 56 countries. My goal is to make it to half of the countries before I die.
What makes someone authentic? Today we're joined by two born and raised LA originals, Estevan Oriol and Spanto. Our mission is to show you that you can make it while still being authentic. This is Los Angeles Mission Podcast.
Kind of grew up I grew up at East Lake. You know what East Lake is?
No, I don't actually.
East Lake Juvenile Hall.
Okay.
So right down the street.
Okay. In downtown.
It's just borderline like downtown to the east side.
Okay.
But I was always getting busted when I was a kid. You know what I mean? It's just like 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So I was always in and out of with Selmar. And then when after they process you at Selmar, they send you down to East Lake.
Okay.
And then sometimes they wouldn't give you a phone call for like a week. You know, so think about it. Like I'm a parent now. If my 13-year-old was gone for 8 days with no phone call, I'd be like, what the is going on?
Yeah.
So I remember Father Boyle. He's the guy who does home ministries.
Yeah. Amazing guy.
I was in the AB unit. They used to call it abandoned babies back then.
Okay.
But I was in the AB unit for like 8 days.
But you had a family, is what you're saying.
Yeah, of course I had a family.
Okay,
yeah.
But you were in the abandoned unit.
It was just a nickname that the inmates called it. Yeah. So anyway, I got arrested on my mom's birthday on October 9th. And then they didn't give me a phone call till like October 16th or something like that. But Father Boyle came in and he was like, all calm. And he's just like, why didn't you call your grandparents? You've been in jail for. And I was just like, they didn't give me a phone call, dog. Like I've been here for this long. And they just kind of threw me in this box, and this is my first time being here.
Right.
And he was like, okay, well let me get you a phone call. And he smiled at me and like winked at me. He had like a sparkle in his eye. You could tell he's just like that dude. And
right.
Like, come with me, and everything got better. And then he was like, bring this kid a phone. He got me a phone.
But this wasn't even at Homeboy. This was at the detention center.
Juvenile Hall. I think this is before Homeboy even started. What year did that start?
I mean, it's been around, but...
This is like 95.
Okay.
If it was, he's probably just getting started. But he had like a relationship with all these little, juvenile facilities. He talked to all the kids.
Wow.
So he pulled me out and got me a phone call. I called my parents, blah, 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 blah. Yeah,
that's
crazy.
I'll
be here for a minute. So anyways, I saw the Homeboy thing, and I was just like, I've been wanting to talk to Father Boyle since then, Because like a lot of my homies I grew up with, you go to the joint. When you come out, you have like trouble figuring out what you're going to do. What am I going to do when I get out? I don't want to start up. I don't want to sell weed. I don't want to do this. Well, go to Homeboy because they can remove your tattoos and they can figure something out for you. So a lot of my homies go straight to Homeboy,
Yeah.
So naturally, I wanted to work with them.
That's great.
So we put out one T-shirt, but I'm talking to them now without the third party. About how we can do something bigger this year.
That's great. Yeah. So that's something that you try to integrate into Born and Raised is like. I don't think it's also authentic to your life. It sounds like.
I mean, with Born and Raised, it's just like I see so many people that come to LA and they pitch this like booth LA story. You know what I mean? Seriously, man, it's like they come here and they're just like it's like me going to New York and just staying in Times Square.
Yeah,
we're fucking the real New York. Start a brand.
Yeah,
it's just y'all gonna fish out of the TMZ zone.
Oh, word.
Everybody fishing out of the same pond of the TMZ zone, and I'm just like, man, this is lame. So I just wanted to tell, I saw like a void to fill. So I was like, I'm just gonna tell the LA story better than these dudes,
Yeah, now I feel like it's so natural to like the culture that we're talking about, the wider LA these days. I mean, maybe it's just because I'm in this generation where now growing up in LA, I'm becoming an adult and I'm seeing how, LA is really not what we look at on the postcard, but you've turned it into like an actual brand that's become high fat. It's cool now to celebrate the other side of LA. Did you see that gap and you were like, this is where I show it?
I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I was busted. I had to go do a year. Like, I was like 26 or 27.
Yeah.
And I had to go do a year, like, for some dumb shit, So I was like, I'm going to go to jail for a year. And then some dude ended up getting stabbed in my dorm. And then I ended up going to the hole, right?
Yeah.
And I went to the hole, did my month in the hole. But if you're in a room with the lights on for a month, like, you can only do so many push-ups or whatever. So I was like, what am I going to do when I get out? I was like, I don't know. I kind of like, maybe I'll start a clothing line. You know what I mean? I didn't know shit about making clothing. I still don't know shit about making clothing. But I got out and I was like, I'm going to make a clothing line. And it was like, all the homies were like, well, you're lame. Get the out of here. Smoke this, And then I went to Venice and there was these other guys and they had started a brand. I'm not going to say the name of their brand because the guy just passed away. Rest his soul. But they created a brand about Venice. And one guy was from Canada and one guy was from London. And I was like,
bro.
This is we've been, in the 80s and 90s, we were like, we were spilling blood and doing
Yeah.
time and getting shot and, making all these sacrifices so we could say we were from Venice. And then these fucking idiots just mosey on in here and it's just like, you know what I mean? Print a shirt like with Venice, with love from Venice. I'm just like, no, you're not doing that shit. So like I got out and then I walked in the store and I saw what they were doing and I'm like, maybe I just don't get it because like I don't understand any of this shit. Maybe I'm just out of touch.
Yeah.
But I look back at it now, I was like, nah, that shit is whack. But I was like, I saw them do it and I was like, well, if these guys can do it, then I'm gonna do it better.
When did you guys link up? How did that happen?
I've always been a fan of this fool's work since the jump, since I was a kid. Like as a kid.
Like how could you not be growing up in LA? Yeah.
Even just like not even being a kid, but being like a early or teenager, like going to parties and shit.
Right.
Like I'd go to parties or nightclubs. Like back then we were going to like what was it, the Gate, Pray, all those nightclubs on La Cienega and shit. It's like Greystone Sundays where that's at now.
Oh yeah, I remember Greystone.
I remember going in and seeing like all the Soul Assassin fools and they just like they ran this shit.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
right.
You weren't linked to Soul Assassins in some way, shape, or form. You ain't really part of this.
Yeah,
So, obviously always been a major fan of this dude's work, cartoons work, Muggs work, Alchemist work, everybody,
And how do you define like the impact that made for you, like growing up, like when you're seeing these guys killing it in the city and like creating a movement, did that inspire you to like want to create this sort of art that you've now embodied into Born and Raised?
I don't know, man. I don't think I thought about it too much, man.
It's just organic.
It's just like people are like, well, when did you decide to be a gamer? I'm like, I don't know, man. I woke up and I look like this.
Kind of,
so
it's
like,
forced. It's like
so
your circumstance.
Naturally, I started doing this stuff that I just thought was tight.
Yeah.
And it's in line with what he thinks is tight because it's the same thing. Just, there's a generational gap. It's not that big, but cause he's not that much older than me, but we just started doing shit together. And then like when I first launched the brand in 2012, I think, 2011, 2012.
Yeah.
Like my partner Two Tone was like, hey, he's a director, so he's like, hey, we got to shoot a film for this for the brand before we launch it. And I was like, a film? You're tripping? Because Instagram wasn't really a thing back then.
Right.
It was, but it wasn't.
Right.
So we shot this film in black and white. We just, it was like one of those shoot days where everything just works out perfectly. Like my dad showed up. My mom hasn't seen him in 30 years. You know what I mean? So,
wow. Yeah.
Yeah, he shows up. Just the whole thing. And then like the homies got there and it was raining. It was just like, and he pulled up and he started shooting. And it's just like...
This is your first film that you've shot for Born and Raised?
My first anything. I didn't...
And he was there?
I hit him like, hey, what's up, man? You want to pull up?
Yeah.
He knows a lot of my homies from Venice. And he's like, yeah, sure, I'll pull up. So he pulled up and shot some photos. And I just feel like we've been good friends ever since.
So you guys were connected in the LA world before Born and Raised. Like you were already affiliated.
We're connected spiritually.
We won't get into the ties. Yeah. No, but that's crazy. So now I'm curious, like, when you get hit up by the young like people who are trying to grow, like how you seem to be really tapped into the youth like movements that are going on around. I see you posting like collabs with people who are doing interesting stuff. Why do you like to do that? Why do you like to connect with young artists and how does that?
It goes to the old saying is you're only as good as your last your last song, your last tattoo, your last photo. So it doesn't matter if I have over 500,000 photos. Nobody cares, It's like, what are you doing now? Like, what have you done lately? Because, like, you can live off that old up to a certain degree, but what makes you relevant is what you're doing now. So,
Yeah.
Relevant is so important nowadays,
Right.
It's like one of the top 10 words on Instagram. And that's what everybody lives by is what's cool on social media. So if you're not cool in that world, then you're kind of, you're like a dinosaur. And I'm old enough to be in that category. I'm old enough and I've done enough to be in the category as like, oh, he's one of the old guys, he's out of the loop, like you see that so much, like with almost everybody that I came up with in my era is out of the loop and out of the game. And you see like the young crowd, like even being like disrespectful to them because they're like, oh, them, they're older, they're out of the, they're out of the game. It's our time now. They had their time.
Right.
The cool thing about our crew is never left. We've never left it.
Yeah.
So there's no coming back or reinventing ourselves or anything like that, because we never have stopped doing what we've been doing. Like some people have stopped doing what they did back when everything was going, and then they came back, and now it's a struggle for them to get back into it.
Right.
And you see it, I've seen guys that have made millions of dollars leave the industry
Right.
of, the art world, whether it's fashion, photos, music, whatever, and then they try to come back, and it's a struggle for them.
Right.
Even though they had great success back then. But we never stopped.
What do you think? Yeah, like why? How do you think you guys have kept that momentum, like within your group and
because we
artistically?
never had a choice, we never had another career,
Right.
or another lifestyle. It was we've
Survivalist.
stuck to this. I still dress the exact same that I did in the 90s. People like go, when are you gonna get some skinny jeans, Holmes? I'm like, I'm not.
Yeah.
When are you gonna wear a large shirt?
Right.
I'm not. So I even went one time just as a joke with my daughter. She goes, the kids, my kids. I have 4 kids
Right.
from the age of 30 to 21. So my kids were like, "Hey, Dad, when are you gonna stop wearing 4X T-shirts? 4X Pro Clubs." At that time, I was like 265.
Yeah.
So I was fat. I wanted to hide the fat, so I put on a 4X shirt.
Right.
So I went with my kids to the mall. I go, let's go to the hottest store in the mall.
Yeah.
And they go, okay, cool. So I walk in the store and I tell the girl, and I'm walking in with
Take them to Fairfax. Yeah.
size like 48 pants with a 4X Pro Club and some Cortezes probably. And I walk in the store with my daughter, and I go, hey, my daughter thinks I'm too old to dress like this, and she wants me to dress more hip. Can you hook me up? And the girl started laughing. She's like, oh, yeah, come right this way, sir. I go, I just don't want to wear all my old school clothes. I want to wear the new shit. Can you hook it up? And she's like, yeah. So she gets me like an outfit, and I go in the dressing room and put it on and come out, and they both are laughing. They both start laughing. And I know what they're laughing at. I look ridiculous because that shit.
Yeah.
Like fitted clothes to what everybody else considers fitted.
Yeah.
Didn't work for me. So I put on these like pants that were like, fitted. I put on a shirt, like maybe a large or extra large shirt, because I'm
Yeah.
a big guy. So everybody, the funny thing about me is I'm a big guy. So everybody says, oh, he's a big guy. Send him a large shirt. So I have shit ton of fucking large shirts or extra large in my garage. I, end up giving away to homeless people,
Yeah.
or people in Mexico that don't have what we have here.
Right.
So I come out of the dressing room, and they're both laughing at me, and I go, hey, what are you laughing at? I tell the girl that works there, I go, why are you laughing at me? She goes, sir, you look, to be honest with you, like I'm here to make money.
Yeah.
I make money off of selling clothes. You look better than what you came in.
So it's
wearing.
just, it's you. You can't change the
Yeah, it's
person. You
just-
can't take it
yeah,
off. You
so
can't-
it's like,
yeah.
throughout these years, I've always stayed me. I've always stayed what I started doing. Everything's, of course you have to not change, but evolve,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I've had to, evolve and grow with the times and,
Right.
keep up to date, but I never stopped doing what I did.
Right.
And that's, my whole crew's like that. And none of the main crew has fallen off. Of course, there's been a lot of homies that have come around and they fell off,
Right.
But that's because of they couldn't hang, It's a hard thing to be a part of. Is like the art world, Pretty
Yeah.
much every form of art.
Yeah. So
There's a lot
you've seen a
of-
lot of people just completely
yeah.
lose their whole.
We've given like at
life.
least 100 of our friends jobs. Like
Wow.
if you look at me, Be Real Cartoon,
Yeah.
Mugs, all the core group, we've all given our at least say 10, 20 homies a job throughout the years.
Wow.
Most of them have fallen off.
That's crazy. So
And
you
we're-
guys are trying to bring up the community around you so that everybody benefits is kind of
and most of those guys were fresh out of prison, fresh out of drug rehab, or on drugs still. We're trying to help them out, get them cleaned up, and they didn't want it as bad as we did. We wanted, like, I grew up with my mom on welfare, Medi-Cal, all that shit, so I didn't want to live like that my whole life. I was like, man, I see my mom struggling. I'm going to the food, I'm buying with food stamps, living around kids that have money.
Yeah.
And it is kind of like, it's kind of embarrassing. Like, they're pulling out crispy, 20s or 50s or 100s, and I'm pulling out food stamps to buy my shit. It's like, I was like, fuck, man. You feel it inside. You don't say nothing. You play it off, but yeah, motherfucker, what? I'm keeping it real. I got food stamps, but at the same time, you're like, damn, I wish I had some crispy bills like these motherfuckers, So growing up like that, I always thought, like, man, I don't want to always be struggling like my mom has to do with me,
Yeah.
So I started working at a young age, and if it took 2-3 jobs, that's what it took.
Crazy.
And I always told myself, like, the same cliche shit everybody says, like, when I make it, I'm going to buy my mom a house, all that type of shit.
Yeah.
When I started making money, I still don't think I made it, like what people say or what you think in your head.
Right.
I ended up paying my mom's mortgage every month until she passed away. So I ended up achieving that, Ended up paying for my mom's bills and taking care of her. And I still help my dad, as much as I can. But, sometimes the people that, people are prideful. They don't want to help, They're like, I got it. So, but I try and help out my family, my friends, and the community as much as I can.
So you grew up, did you both grow up, like, relatively poor in the sense?
Yeah, I grew up
in the literal sense.
I grew up in Venice, and like, if you tell somebody now, like, oh, I live in Venice, they're like, you're rich.
Yeah.
Because Venice has gotten so wildly out of control and
I think
expensive.
you're a venture capitalist.
It's not even gentrification anymore. It's on some whole other shit.
Right.
It's like I live on Mars. But yeah, I grew up in Venice in a 2-bedroom house. There's 3 of us in a bedroom, 3 brothers. My dad left when I was 2, and then my great grandpa bought that house in the 30s. He bought it for like $10,000 or something like that. So we've been there. My family's been there for coming up on a century in the same crib. But yeah, we grew up. I didn't. Yeah, we're still there. I bought it last year.
Wow. You purchased the house that they've had for
well,
that.
You family.
You bought it back
stuff.
from them or something.
My mom has been there. We've been there, for the last 30 years or whatever. So
that's crazy.
You see the tidal wave of gentrification coming. You're like, fuck, man, you better figure it out real fast, because like before you know it, you're gonna be on your ass. That fast. Somebody passes away, whole family comes out, pounces on it. I'm not saying my family per se, but that's just generally what happens, right? It's like people get greedy, and they're like, I want the money, and they're like, oh, it's in Venice, it's worth a lot of money, so let's give me my cut. So
did you guys ever want to sell to the
hell no,
gentrifiers?
No, man. Like, if I had to sell my house to some cheese dick and have them knock it down and build some modern barn, like I'd off myself, because like for me, this is our heirlooms, man. Like, my family's been in Venice. We had 3 houses in Venice. We've been there for almost a century. So like all my Christmases, all my birthdays, all my everything was spent in this, in this like 3-block quadrant.
Wow.
And I just like to give my memories to somebody else, like they don't deserve my memories.
Right.
And I think most people kind of get fooled out of their property, like developers, gentrifiers, real estate people. I get a letter in my house every day.
There's a new motion to block that. It's because it's become such a big deal for people who are like,
dude,
it sounds like your family.
They get our phone numbers, and they don't even send letters. Now they just text us.
Right.
And they're just like,
a lot of them are scams. A lot of them are scams. They're not real. They're saying, oh, we can give you $1 million, but it's like it's really just some guy who thinks that he can leverage the house against some sort of credit.
I mean,
it's not real.
There's been so many different ways to con people out of these neighborhoods.
Right.
Like I was thinking about this on the way over here, but like not to get off the subject of what's happening right now, but
Yeah.
if you look at gentrification,
That's a good subject, though.
how it starts, we can go right back to it because this is related. But it's like how it starts is you have the federal raid. Cool, let's go and let's let the feds go in and put cases on 200 people here.
Yeah.
Then they arrest all the warriors, throw them in the feds for 10, 15 years. After that comes the gang injunction, and that's for all the little warriors. That's for all the kids my age, teenagers and shit, right? So they just lock them up, throw them in jail for what? For nothing. Like, okay, cool. We compiled this list of gang members that are from this area. 90% of the kids on that injunction list, they're not from a gang. They're just normal kids doing normal kid shit. And then it gives the gang unit, access and a reason to arrest these kids, throw them in jail, in and out constantly, go in there, raid the house, tell the parents you should move, and then eventually the parents are like, fuck, we're out of here. This is my kid,
Right.
my kid out of trouble. Let's go move to Moreno Valley where it's safe. Let's go to Victorville, but it's and they just keep getting pushed farther and farther and farther east, and I just watched the process happen over and over and over and over again.
Were there gangs trying to recruit you and gangs in that?
What the fuck kind of question is that?
Of course, right? Yeah.
No, I just I grew up. I'm from Venice 13. I'm old. I was gangbanging in 94, 95, 96.
Right.
But that was me personally. I'm just talking about the kids that get they get the short end of the stick because they don't want nothing to do with it. I play baseball and I like math. But you're on this injunction because of who your family is and how long they live here and because of your economic bracket.
Right.
And then those kids get screwed. And then next thing you know, you get arrested for belonging to a certain culture. And then they take that exact same culture and sell it back to the consumer. Now it's like Dogtown property and where art meets crime. It's tight, move in here.
Yeah.
It makes me mad. It pisses me off. And then even just living there now, if I was some older, vulnerable person that's been there forever,
right.
You get these letters and these things, and every day some real estate person's knocking on the door like, hey, what's going on? These houses are selling. I can make you $1 million. It's like, motherfucker, this house costs 2.6. Just a lot alone. Don't try to tell me this $1 million shit,
they try to undercut you too.
Yeah. So.
And how many of your friends still live in Venice at this point?
There's this many families. There's only a couple. Yeah, we're still there. Don't get me wrong. Look, the energy and the culture and that feeling is still there. It's not there every day when you step outside and look at it. But if we have a function or on Hood Day or a barbecue or somebody passes away, everybody comes back and it's still there. That feeling is still there. The spirit of Venice will always be alive. It'll never die.
Do you have friends who would like to be living in Venice but can't afford it? They're priced out?
Most people, a good friend of mine, I'm not going to say his name either, I saw him the other day. He came by to get a Born and Raised shirt. And I saw his uncle on Lincoln the other day, and he was just like, oh, I'm going to leave the house to, my nephew. And I was elated. I'm like, man, you're going to get a house. You get to stay here. That's amazing. And he comes by, he goes, oh, no, I'm going to sell it, but let me get that shirt right there. And I'm like, homie, you're missing the whole point. And so what I'm getting at, he's like, I'm going to sell it. I'm going to make a couple $100,000. I'm going to move out. Then I'm going to come back. And I'm like, yo, once you exit the bubble, you ain't coming back inside the bubble, man.
It's a good segue into what I was asking you earlier about seeing Born and Raised worldwide in other countries. What are your thoughts when you see Born and Raised in Tokyo, where it's huge? How do you feel about that? And
I don't know. We talked about before the cameras are rolling. I think people in Japan, they're paying attention, even though we're not speaking the same language. I think because a lot of people, I think the Born and Raised message goes over their heads. A lot of people are just like, oh, what are you talking about, gang stuff and violence? I'm like, no, not at all. I'm actually talking about the opposite of that.
Right.
I was like, we belong to this culture, and there's good sides and bad sides to every culture. I don't care.
Right.
No matter what culture you're in, there's going to be good people and bad people.
No, I don't think you're glamorizing violence
Not
at
even
any means.
not even a little bit. I'm trying to say the softer side, the more intimate side, and the kinder side of the culture that gets destroyed and bashed in the media.
Right.
So like I said, I think people in Japan, I think they, their attention to detail and the way you said fetishize. Maybe that's the wrong word.
It's a hardcore word.
Yeah, it's just they find something they like and then they hold on to it. You know? And I think that they understand it and they get it and they know what I'm talking about, and it's just, it makes me proud.
That was in LA Originals too, when I remember there was the scene, you have Kobe and he's talking about a tattoo that he got from cartoon, and he's saying, I was in China, and the receptionist at the hotel, she goes, oh, that's a cartoon tattoo. And it's like, it's crazy that this culture that started really in lower class areas that usually would not get any shine are now all around the world. This is a good question, actually. How has success changed you and not changed you at the same time? Like, you guys both seem to be really people who have stuck to your character and like not like you saying you're not going to dress like in Gucci even though you can afford Gucci. You know what I mean? It's just like
I can't afford Gucci, neither can he.
yeah. Well, you get it for free, so
we
you
wear
know.
black T-shirts and Levi's,
But yeah, but it's like, do you see, now that you have what a lot of people consider the American dream, like, do you give all of your mental energy back to remembering where you came from and your roots? Is that how you keep the flame going of that energy?
I'm gonna speak up for this man before he takes the mic, but like, he talked about people like coming, like I've seen a million people get to this point and like being in this position of being successful or whatever you want to call it, being in the limelight, and then just like disappear in 6 months and they never come back again, right?
Yeah, getting lost, yeah.
It's just like, what happened to him? I don't know.
Right.
He never came back.
Drugs,
but I think a lot of that is because those people are not the real deal.
Sure.
Estevan is the real deal. Like what he preaches, what he says, and what he portrays. Like he is that. But born and raised, I would never, push something that's not directly tied to my life.
Yeah.
It's real. So I don't think that like it's really, you can get it to go away, but it's really hard to push real out of the picture.
You guys aren't trying to go to any like. You're not trying to get to the next Hollywood party. You're trying to like.
No, I do that shit too.
Okay.
Yeah,
I do all of it, man.
We're fun.
Yeah. You go to
You gotta be versatile, man. You gotta learn how to live in all these different.
Yeah, you move around. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you get through the. Is that the same for you?
Yeah. Like the other day, me and my guys that I work with, we were on a production for this company, and
sounds crazy, by the way.
I'm shooting celebrities I'm shooting stills of celebrities while they're filming them. Like I get to do my own portrait of them, and so we went to lunch with the crew.
Yeah.
And we were sitting on one side of the table, and they were sitting on the other side of the table, and we were like having a conversation with each other, and then we'd go into our own conversations with our crew, and they'd go into a conversation with their crew. And some of the words, like we were all saying the same words. We were all speaking in English, but some of the stuff we couldn't understand what they were saying, and some of the stuff they couldn't understand what we were saying.
And you're talking about these like celebrity cliques of like their
like Hollywood production crew type people.
Okay.
They were talking in perfect English, saying English words.
Yeah.
But we couldn't understand what they were saying. We're like, what did she say? What was that? And then they would ask us questions too, like, what would you say? So it was just a trip to see that here's, two groups of people in the same city, in the same industry, talking the same language. But we didn't understand some things that they were saying. They didn't understand some. It wasn't like they were using vocabulary that we never heard. It was the way they were wording it.
Right.
And like slang words said in a different way to where we're like, I was like, hey, did you understand what she said? And he goes, I don't know what the fuck she's saying.
Right.
And then you could tell they were having the same conversation about us.
Yeah.
And they would ask us, like, what did you guys mean by that? We're like, oh, we meant this. And it's just a trip to, you, like he said, you have to be able to go in all these different types of worlds. But even though we get that, there's still that like lost in translation type of feeling or like no matter how much you feel like you're down with different things, you still don't feel like you're in there, Right. Like I've lived in Hollywood for years.
Right.
Like sometimes my wife would tell me, you're acting Hollywood, fool. You're acting Hollywood. I go, I am Hollywood. What are you talking about?
Right.
I've been living in this was my address for this many years. This is where I get our money for our family is from doing this work with this.
And you bring it back
in these industries, and this is how we live.
Right.
So you're Hollywood too. Hate to break you the news,
Yeah.
We're living off of that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what are you gonna say? Like you're not. We're making movies. We're making music. We're selling art. We're making fashion.
Right.
Like how the fuck how is that not Hollywood?
We're different than them, but I mean, obviously, I'm gonna point out the elephant in the room, but like that's what makes us work. That's what makes it, because like as long as we're comfortable in our own skin, like it's gonna work.
Sure.
Like, we don't have to become like them. As long as we can rub elbows with them and just be who we are, that's what's going to, like, make it go forever.
Right.
Because they'll never be like us, and they know that.
Right.
We're the lucky ones. We're the fortunate ones. Because if I was trying to be like them, I'd just be like every other schmuck in a suit,
So when you have meetings with, like, agents and people who are pitching you deals, like, what is, how does it feel to, like, get that people are interested because you guys are putting a shine on this culture, and do you feel like they're sort of appropriating at times? How do you weave that line?
It feels like they're taking pliers and taking your fingernails out.
But you just give them a little piece of it.
When you're in the meetings, you're like, God damn, this is torture,
Right.
But at the same time,
but that's
you got to play ball.
$100,000 fingernail.
Yeah, you got to play ball, and you got to be like, well, how much? There's people that pitch me and my group projects.
Right.
90% of the shit is crazy. You're like, there's no fucking way I even want to be affiliated with this. It's corny. But then you start thinking, well, as I started thinking, and as what I started seeing was, no matter what, they're going to do it. They have this idea in their head, and that's why they're coming to you, but they've already made the decision that they're going to do this idea. So do you want another corny thing done about your culture without any of your culture involved in it? Or do you want to try to put your foot in it and try and get some of the story told right? Like at least your part.
Right.
And that's what we've done, for years. We've there's some things that we've been involved in where we got to have a little bit of say, but people have told us, hey man, that shit was corny, but we could tell the part you had to do with it. That shit was real. That shit was authentic. And that was dope to see. At least you could tell, at least they listened to you for that.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? So that's part of the real struggles that we have. But, at the end of the day, too, it's kind of like a job, Nobody gets to pick. When you're going to work a job, you don't get to pick who you work with and who you get to do everything with. We get really lucky with a lot of shit to do. There's a lot of stuff we get to do that we do get to have some control, when we do get to do what we love to do and get paid for it.
Right.
Like I don't go to work. I wake up every morning like happy and cool, like in peace. I'm like, oh, okay, today's a great day. Look at how beautiful it is. And then I start going through the day, and you just start hearing people complaining and crying and bitching and moaning. I'm like, what the fuck are you crying about, man? Like, look at what you're doing. You're doing a cool-ass job that you want to do. Like, this is what you love to do. There's people that go to work, they don't love what they do. They go to that job because they have to pay the bills, and they're comfortable going somewhere from 9 to 5. They stop at the liquor store on the way home. They get a 6-pack of beer. They go watch their favorite TV show and hang out with their family. And they get up and do that the next day for 30 years. And then they get a little punk-ass fucking 401k or whatever, and they get to retire for 10 years. They worked 50, and they get to kick back with a minimal amount of money at the end of it for 10 years, and they're cool with that. I want to see some shit and do some shit. I don't want to be that guy that just accepts everything that's given to me and, just does the least. That's cool. I'm not judging that, because we need that shit.
Right.
We need some people that have been waiters in a restaurant for 40 years. Like, I love going to an old school restaurant, and there's Jimmy that's been working there for 40 years. He serves the same steak, the same potatoes, the same salad every day to hundreds of people. He doesn't even have a fucking pen and paper in his hand. He'll go to your table and take 10 people's orders with specialty. Like, I don't like the onions in mine. Can you do mine gluten-free? Can you do mine with no ice? And like, he's walking back there, and he's like bringing that out perfect to you.
Yeah, and it was like when we walked in, you guys were talking, like you really actually wanted to get to know our head of security. You were like talking to him, talking about how he worked at some other place. I don't remember, but I mean, that was really interesting to me, because we've had other celebrities come, and it was like, they just want to walk in. You were actually trying to learn about this guy, and he actually knows a lot about you guys, but it was very intriguing.
He's a part of the story that we're telling.
Right.
He's like, I went to Roosevelt, you know, like he grew up on the east side.
Yeah,
and then he's
yeah.
like, then I was a CO, which means he was a corrections officer.
Yeah.
So I'm usually on the other side of the fence as him, you know, like he's a CO and I'm on that side. I'm usually an inmate. So just be able to talk to him and like feel out his thoughts, his views on everything, because at the end of the day, we all end up here, right?
Mentally, do you guys still feel like you're on the other side? Is that how you keep?
Nah, not at all, man.
Yeah.
I don't feel like that at all. Like I can have a conversation with anybody. You know, when I was younger, yeah, but
Right.
yeah. He also said he was at LAPD, so I want to know what detail he worked, because it's interesting to me. You know, like the whole like the crash unit thing. Growing up, that was like my biggest fear. If I saw a black and white cop car with no lights on the top, my heart dropped. You know, because that usually means I'm about to go to jail for a long time or get beat up. You know.
Right.
So I just, you know, I asked him if he worked crash before, because I just, you know.
That is an interesting topic because you spent a lot of time this year, or last year actually, shooting the protests. What has drawn you guys to what's gone on around the city? LAPD seems to be making a lot of changes when it comes to criminalization, especially of homelessness, but there's a big movement around it, and we're putting a lot of spotlight on that, and you're talking about going through juvenile detention centers growing up. How do you guys feel about what's going on, and why did you choose to spend so much time in the protests?
Because there wasn't to do, you know, like the
So
fucking,
it's something to do. Okay, yeah, okay.
no, it's like my job is to take picture of people.
Right.
When you
Yeah.
when you tell everybody don't go outside because everybody's gonna get sick and die, and don't go anywhere because you know that's what could happen. There goes my job. So I can't work. Basically, I sit at home and do nothing. But how are you going to make money to pay your bills?
No, yeah, I hear you.
So luckily, LA Originals dropped, and people liked the movie,
That was
and
during the
people went
pandemic.
to my website
Right.
and bought shit to where okay, now I got enough money to live on for a couple months, but I'm bored. I can't sit in the house. I'm not that guy that can sit in the house all day. Like I have to be moving. Like from 7 in the morning when I wake up till 2 in the morning, I'm out. Like he calls me, he'll see me like something at 1:30 in the morning. What are you doing? I'm up with the baby. What are you doing? I'm in the streets, homie. I'm just coming home from work, like I'm always I got so much shit to do that how they say like there's not enough time in the day, so
Yeah.
when you take all that away from me and say, hey, there's a curfew, there's a lockdown, this, that, and the other, like, I'm getting antsy. I got to go out and go and do something. So when people are like, hey, there's this going on today and it's for this cause, and I'm like, that sounds cool to me, I'm going to go out there and check it out. And, I have some beliefs in that. And my art and my career is documenting and imagery. So everybody's in the house, so I can't go take pictures of everybody's in the house, but this is happening out in the street, so I'm going to go and take pictures of that. And I like what's going on, and I want to see the response of between the people and the people that they're protesting against. And most of the time it was peaceful, but sometimes it was violent, and it was coming from the police side. I was at a couple things, and I didn't see anybody do anything. Of course, they're like yelling and chanting and doing that, but I have like video and photos of them kicking it off. And I got shot with everything that they had: rubber bullets, the paint guns, the flash bangs, the tear gas, the pepper spray. I got all that, shot at me and sprayed on me and everything. But when we were out there, you're walking away, you're coughing, you're hurt because you got shot with something at close range. Your eyes are burning, you can't breathe, and then the flashbangs are going, so you're kind of like off balance and shit. Yeah. And then you walk away just far enough to get away from that, and you rub your eyes, and you try and take the shit away, and the burning goes away. And the craziest part about it is you go right back to it. like I would be like, hey, you guys all right? You guys feel good? And they're like, yeah, okay, let's go back.
Yeah.
And you go right back to the front line and do it again. And I was tripping out on that after the fact. I was like, damn, man, what's wrong with us? And nobody was like getting sprayed in the face or getting shot by rubber bullets and then going, oh, okay, I'm taking my ball and I'm going home. Everybody would just go right back to the front line and be like, this is what it is, and we're here for this reason, and we're gonna make our voice heard. So
Crazy.
I mean, what else was
So much energy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, how can you not want to be around that?
Right.
Like it's
You have
shit
to
that
see it, yeah.
shit that's been, like he said. What happens when you see a cop car with no lights on? One, you're going to jail for a long time, or two, you're getting beat up.
Yeah.
That was
Right.
what he was.
It
That was
felt
what,
like it was all of that pouring out.
Yeah, one more
for
time.
once, yeah.
One more time, people were talking about it. And
Right.
and as a group and in your face and publicly.
Right.
It was like, back in the 90s when we were growing up, it was like, we got beat up. I got beat up a bunch of times by cops.
Right.
And I've fought cops before, and I've had like things where I said, well, take your badge off and put your gun down, and let's
Right.
go heads up.
Right. Right.
Like, you can't do that shit no more.
Yeah.
That shit is over with. But when any of those
Oh,
kind
you
of
think that you back then you could do it, but now you would just get shot? Is what you're saying?
not so much of that, but they're not tolerating it.
Oh yeah.
Like, it was different back then. Like, there was, like, if you did get beat up by the cops or whatever, you would just go tell your homies, like, hey, I was crazy, fool. Last night I was coming home, the cops pulled me over, threw me against the wall, hit me with the billy club a couple times, fucked me up, and then they let me go. They didn't even give me a ticket. And you're like,
So you had run-ins like that where it was just like,
Yeah.
fuck, man, they just roughed me up.
yeah, but it wasn't even like that. You'd like laugh it off. You'd be like, that shit was crazy, homie.
Yeah.
They take you to like the other side of town and be like, here, get out here,
Yeah.
or go to jail. I'd be like, fuck that, take me to jail.
Or they fucking
Right.
take your clothes off and write down all your tattoos on a little white
Oh,
card.
to identify you later.
Yeah, but in the middle, on the busiest street in the world, like, my parents have driven by and go, Mijo, we saw you pulled over and they had your shirt off and they were, checking your tattoos on your legs and stuff. Are you okay? I was like, yeah, it's cool. Nothing new.
Yeah.
But that was before phones and everything, and like, everybody was different, both
Right.
sides, people in the streets and people, the law enforcement people were different, like I remember there was like cops and stuff that were known for, if you said, hey, take your gun off and let's catch a fade, they were known for whooping people's ass. They're like, oh, you don't want to do that with him, he'll take his shit off and lay you out.
Yeah.
There was some cops like that too, so, but nobody would tell on each other. It would just be like,
yeah.
I went heads up with this dude, and he got hands,
Right. How
But
many friends
now,
do you have, guys? How many friends do you guys have that are like lost their youth and their adult life to being imprisoned and are from LA?
a lot of them.
All my friends, like my generation, they're all lifers. All of them. I have all their names tattooed on me.
Yeah.
Like my best friend Patrick, growing up, he got 68 to life when he was 17. All these, he's been down for 20.
Yeah.
He just did like 10 in the Bay. But all these laws changing, people are coming home now. Like,
Same. Is that what you're noticing too? Like people starting to.
Yeah, they're starting to let people out of prison that were busted for weed and stuff like that. I have friends that did like 10 years for having weed,
Yeah. That's
or if you get life before the age of 22, like, because most of the kids that are getting busted for these shootings in the 90s were like 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, because that's when you're like in your warrior stage. So all these kids, being in the county, it was just like, being 2,800, and it'd be like 200 kids, all under age 22, that are all fighting life, right? And most of them got washed up because they don't got the money to have a real lawyer, to get a public defender.
Right.
But they passed this law that if you get life in prison before the age of 22, your brain's not fully developed yet. So a lot of these kids that were, from that era, from that age, are all getting, not cut loose, but they're getting let out now,
It's insane. Yeah. And actually, a second part of that question, tying it back to the mission, do you guys, either of you guys have friends who have been homeless or
Hell yeah.
are currently homeless, or, and do you keep in touch with them? How do you keep in touch with them?
Yeah, I have friends and family members that have been and are homeless, and
Family members?
yeah, like I go and see them, and check in with them, because you never know, like they're in the street,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like I used to like think about when all those shows came out, like Survivor and all that type of shit. I used to think about them, the way they put these people in the jungle, butt naked, and they're like, here, survive for a week, and they're like getting eaten up by mosquitoes and like that. And I was like, that's pretty crazy. But imagine if they threw them in Skid Row for a week, like
Sure.
that. You want to see some real Survivor shit?
Yeah.
Throw them in Skid Row for a week.
Yep.
Like even the one where they're doing the prison one, where they throw somebody in prison, like a guy get a hair up his ass and want to see what's like to live in prison,
Right.
I'll go in there for a week, and then they get to pull me out, but it'll be on TV, later on. And I was like, that's pretty crazy. But I was like, imagine a fucking thing, like not on TV, because you couldn't film it. It would never happen. But imagine people getting put in to Skid Row for a week and being on that Survivor, And I tried to, when I would go and check in with a family member that is homeless.
Yes.
I thought to myself, like, I wonder what it would be like if I could do that for a week, like go and live with them for a week just to trip out.
Yeah.
And I asked them, I was like, hey, would it be cool if I came and stayed with you for a week just to trip out and see if I could, hang? And they're like, yeah. You want to see where I stay? And I was like, yeah, because it was under like in like the river, where
I know
where the road goes over.
There's like a little triangle.
like a little
thing.
tunnel.
Yeah.
No, it was like the tunnel where the water goes through.
Okay.
So I went down there and looked at it, and there's like pallets. Because the water wasn't running at this time that much, so they had like pallets, and then they had their bedding on top of that, and then they had like the blue shit going around, to keep the wind and stuff from blowing.
Yeah. Tarps. Like.
So I go down there, and I'm just kicking in there and just sitting there, and I'm just like checking it out, like, hey man, could I check out of working and doing all that shit and come down here for a week just to see what this life is like,
Dude, that's insane.
I went down there, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, you start looking at everything, and you're seeing like how they're living, and how they, boil water, and they use that water to wash themselves off with, and how to make coffee, and how they make food, and then you start hearing little noises in there, and you start seeing little rats, and you hear them squeaking and shit like that, and I'm like, why the fuck would I come here and sleep right here and have these rats coming all over me,
Yeah.
And my pad is right there, but I wanted to see what it was like,
Right.
But after looking at it and all that, I was like, I'm cool. There's no way I don't think I could do this,
Right.
And I've been through a lot of shit and done a lot of shit, but to go there and
To understand
commit
it.
to
Yeah,
that,
I
it
get
was like, it was heavy, like put everything way more into perspective. Because it's cool, like, people come down and they want to give back, and they come to Skid Row and they feed the homeless, or they
Thanksgiving. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing that trips me out is those people that come like once a year, Thanksgiving and Christmas. Like, what about you? Don't
We love everybody who wants to support the mission.
Yeah, it's
just be
cool.
clear.
Like, but it's like Skid Row doesn't need everybody to come on 2 days of the year. Like,
I agree.
Spread that shit out. You come on this. Come on this day. You come on this day. Like, because I've come to give food during those times, and the people are like, I'm cool, and they're carrying 2 trays of food.
Right.
two to go.
'Cause they don't need it.
start. Yeah, and I was like, hey man, you want this? And they're like, oh, I'm good, man. Look, I got this.
Right.
So
364 days of the rest of the year.
yeah. There's nothing for them, So
Right. People just want to
What
feel good
I-
about that holiday spirit, and then
yeah, like but there's I forget where I was going with that, but it was
I mean, I think it's a very valid point, regardless of where you're going with it, because it's so true that we try to sort of compartmentalize how we feel about what's going on in Skid Row, and how, like you're saying, how real it is to live around rats, to live around
and just
filth
people with
and
mental illness.
Yes,
you know, like everything. Like
How hard it
I've been
is.
down here since I moved down here in '96,
Yeah.
and so
Downtown, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I seen it on a daily basis, and I'm not numb to it, or I'm not, like it doesn't affect me. It's not like that at all. Like I see it wide open. Every time my eyes wide open, I just come through, and it for me it makes me appreciate every single thing that I've gotten.
Yeah.
From doing something that I love.
Right.
Even though I've worked probably harder than most of the people in my field, that I deserve everything I've gotten because I put the work in, but I still coming down here on a daily basis makes me appreciate that just 1,000 times over, and I just trip out that. How people, there's a lot of people in this business that they come from hoods and stuff like that, and they make it supposedly. How people say they made it.
Sure. Yes.
And they sit there and complain and act like like little spoiled babies. Like, oh, I'm cold, or this is this food isn't right, or this or that. I'm like, man, you guys haven't been hanging out downtown enough, because you would appreciate everything you're getting,
Right. It's really how you define making it or success, right? Because it's like, at the end of the day, there's so many successful people that we all know probably or have been around who are miserable, who are drug addicts, who are still mentally, have, and just, it's really success, I think, as you're saying it, it's like having perspective and like knowing what it means to appreciate where you've come from. And I wanted to ask you what, we're talking about Skid Row, like what are some times or experiences that you've had or friends?
I mean, I'm like moderately successful, right? I'm just like a little bit.
For LA, yeah, I get what you're saying.
No, just in general, like I'm just as much successful, but I feel like.
But to everybody else, you are.
Well, at any point, like that shit could be me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
At like this.
Right.
That's why, like, you don't know what the fuck this person has had to endure that got him here. You know what I mean? You don't, like, most people that have privilege, like, I don't have the luxury of, like, like my dad split when I was a kid. My mom was mentally ill. My grandpa, it's like, if I don't figure some shit out, everything's gonna go all bad for me. So I'm literally looking at myself when I drive through Skid Row or wherever. You know what I mean? And then, like, Venice, I live in Venice still, right? Venice has a large homeless population, which we've always had a really large homeless population in Venice, always. It's part of our DNA. It's part of the city, it's part of the city. So, I mean, things have changed a lot because we were on a first name basis with most of these people, Now it's just like this mass migration. It's just a lot of people. But sometimes I drive down roads. You remember, did you see the homeless encampment on the side of the golf course on Penmore?
Yes, yeah.
Or on Rose or whatever?
There's a lot of people posting that as if like this is how terrible the city is getting, and yeah.
Well, like I get up early in the morning, and then I would go down the street to get coffee, and sometimes I go have coffee by the beach in the morning by myself, right? Mm-hmm. So I make a left, and then I go down Rose, and then I'd literally see fools that I grew up with or went to high school with step out of these tents, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, we make eye contact as I'm driving past them. You feel that shit.
Of course.
Whether you know.
Because that could be you.
You
were
could say
this
you
close.
do or don't, but you feel that shit. That shit impacts you. You feel it here in your soul.
Statistically,
you know what
you were basically on path for that, it sounds like.
Hell yeah. If I didn't somehow manage to figure some shit, like I probably would have been in one of them tents, you know?
Right.
I'll pull over and be like, hey, what's good, homie? And they're like, you know, oh, what's up? Well, you know, I'm just doing this or whatever. Because it's, you know, once I said before, like once you exit the bubble, you can't come back in the bubble. If your house gets foreclosed on or something happens and you lose your crib, where the f are you gonna go?
Right.
All those people that are in those tents, and granted, like probably 85% of the people, 60, whatever, a large percentage of those people that are in those tents aren't from Venice or LA specifically, but
Right.
it's just like it's one of the it's gentrification, you know.
Yeah, it's
What
what
are you
you're
gonna
talking
do?
about with housing too. Housing is such a big issue where people are getting priced out of being able to afford a city or place that they family is from.
My
grew up in.
godmother, my godson's grandma, like she's been managing this place on Penmar for like I don't know 30 years, you know, and they just they'll come in and be like, all right, well rent's going from this to this now. You're gonna tack another $4K onto your monthly, and it's just like, well, okay, well I guess I gotta go now, and it's just like peace, bye bye, I gotta leave, you know.
Right.
So it's just where do these people end up? But I'm two bad instances from ending up in a fucking tent. So like, do I feel it? Yeah, I feel it because that's me, and that could be me.
Right.
You know, am I compassionate towards everybody? Absolutely. Because like I said, you don't know what that person's been through to land him there, you know?
Right. When you interact with people who are going through these issues, do you like, what's the thing that you try to learn from it, but then also like, how do you view what you've accomplished that set you on a different path? Is it just constantly trying to make sure your situation never became that? Did you always want just like a greater level of success?
No, I didn't even start born and raised to become successful or rich or famous or any of that shit. I started born and raised because I was pissed off.
Yeah.
I started born and raised because I was mad at like, you know, like stuff, you know, these neighborhoods that we fought for our whole life, and you know, we took it so seriously, and then gentrification came in, turned the whole city upside down, and all these come move in here and like call it theirs. It made me live it. I hated it, you know. I was like, man, I can't stand this shit. So like, you know, you can only beat up so many people that come, you know, do this shit.
Right,
so it's
right.
Like, you gotta like figure something else out. So I use that as a conduit to like channel my frustration and anger and emotion, and it turned from like a hate project into a love project after that, you know. Well,
I hear it.
I was pissed off, but
The energy fueled it, and that's why it caught on, because it was real, and it was, the momentum of that. I can see what you're talking about, I think.
Well, I just, I wanted to put on for people like myself, because I feel like our culture gets swept under the rug a lot, you know.
Right.
So that's why I started Born and Raised. I started because of those, I was angry. I think if I had, my mission was to like become famous or become successful or sell at the coolest store or have some fucking celebrity wear my shit, I wouldn't be successful, because I don't think about that kind of stuff.
How did you feel when you saw H&M sell your photo? That's what I'm curious about.
Oh, I felt like going postal. For real.
It was the actual photo, right? Like,
I was
because
sick
we
to
were
my
talking
stomach.
about
Like, I was
selling out, and you didn't get a dollar out of that, right?
Yeah, like I felt like, it's like who do you go to for this? Like who's gonna get fucked up for this one? Like
because it's a corporation, and they're like
yeah,
international.
where are you
How
gonna
do you
go?
fight the man on that?
Yeah, you go and then tell the security guard, hey, who the fuck in this building took my shit? I want to see them right now. Tell them motherfuckers come outside. That's over with. So it's like, what do you do now? You just take it in the ass and not do anything? Just be like, oh, did I go? Or do you try to do something? I tried to do something. I tried to get a lawyer, and my lawyer went against their team of lawyers, and I don't know if
how could you fight?
Yeah, I don't know if he was
team?
prepared to go at it with this whole team, but like that was one of the things where we were like, hey, how was the first day? He's like, man, they had a team of guys in there, like they're ready to rip my head off. And I go, yeah, but we have everything to,
Yeah.
This isn't the peace sign, and it isn't thumbs up, and it's not the middle finger. Like, this is our shit.
Yeah.
And they were like, he goes, yeah, I know. We got this. And the judge that was seeing that case was like, I think he was 86 years old, and
Yeah.
if you look on the Yelp of law, like the one that all the lawyers and
yeah,
the
sure,
judges and all that shit are on,
Sure.
every review of his is bad. And it's like paragraphs like this long. Like if you're on your phone, you'll be scrolling for a minute, reading about people talking shit about this guy.
What year was it again?
I don't even remember.
But it was like years ago, right?
Yeah.
I feel
10
like
years ago.
nowadays with like Twitter and like how companies can't like appropriate cultures now without getting really dragged. Yeah, and you look at
It doesn't even matter.
Chappelle,
though.
like what happened with Chappelle, where they were trying to sell his
Yeah.
show and didn't get $1, but then they pulled it and they gave him a deal.
Yeah, one guy.
But you would have been that situation.
Right.
That would have been
If we
all
were in
over
the
Twitter.
cancel culture
Now,
back,
yeah.
10 years ago.
And
For sure, maybe I would have had a chance at it, but who knows, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, and you never know who's going to be that one guy. I would have thought Chappelle, if Chappelle speaks up on this, then he's going to get his way. I wouldn't have thought that. I would have thought they'd be like, so what, you know?
Yeah.
You signed the paper, buddy. You know, like, you're out.
But they gave it to him.
But the cool
Yeah.
thing is, he had the balls to stand up to them and speak for everybody in this industry, meaning
Yeah. Yep.
any time of art form.
Yeah.
And he fucking won. He killed it, you know? Like, I was watching that video just going like, this motherfucker, like, he's doing it, you know? As it was going, I was like, he's doing it. Like, this is the shit right here, you know?
You're like, yes.
This is like the one-man protest
Right.
against all these people.
Yeah, everybody
you know?
was fired up. Like,
Yeah,
hey,
he was
man,
by
he's got it.
himself.
Yeah.
He's just like, I'm gonna go out there with this microphone and I'm gonna protest for everybody by myself.
Yeah.
Against these people
Right,
that have been doing this shit to everybody for years.
I think
And
that is what's going on in culture right now. Is authenticity is. Do you feel that way? Do you feel like authenticity is now?
Hell yeah.
You can't.
I mean, there's no way around it because
Yeah, inauthentic.
all the consumer, whoever wants to take a peer into your personal life or what you preach, like they can do that with Instagram. And everybody's brand is pretty much run on Instagram at this point.
Right.
So I don't think there's not really any escaping it, you know. But I think before you could just, you could like get away with that kind of stuff. But now it's just like, nah, everybody's hip to it. So I just feel like it's.
Has there ever been a time where somebody's tried to like appropriate born and raised? I mean, I know people sell.
Yeah, you want $1? Yeah, you got $1 for every time somebody ripped me off. Are you kidding me? Hell
And
yeah.
so people sell like obviously fakes, but then do you ever find like, oh wow, that looks exactly like something we did, like H&M?
Since the very beginning. I mean, even people that are like wildly famous have like taken my shit and used it as their own because like I was like the little dude, you know. That shit almost killed my company a gang of times, you know. And then it gets to like same shit, like my layout, the whole thing is just like, you know, it goes to Forever 21 or then it goes to H&M and you know, then or like the, you know, other larger companies that kind of borrow my ethos. Like, it's just constant, you know. But that's business, man. You just got to constantly kind of like box everybody out, you know.
Yeah.
But like you said, authenticity, right? Like, I wasn't skilled in any of this stuff. I didn't know how to shoot a campaign. I didn't know what medium format film was. I didn't know about styling. I didn't know about making clothes. I didn't know about turnarounds. But the one thing that pushed me through this whole thing was authenticity, because this is like, well, I'm opening myself up. Like, take a shot, you know, because. Everything I say and do on Instagram or you know push with my brand is me, you know. So and if that wasn't the case, then I probably would have went away a long time ago.
I feel like that's a larger storyline going on around everything in the culture. Mental health is so much more acceptable as a topic. People are allowed to show like their wounds, you know what I mean? Like you're allowed to show the gunshots that you've received. That's part of what people want to learn. People want to learn more and accept the real, not the like brushed up Hollywood version. Mm-hmm. And I think that's like what you see, and you don't have to comment on it, but like with Chinatown Market, it's like you have this cancel moment around when Stop Asian Hate is going on and all this stuff. Chinatown Market is an area where you have lower income people who, you know, that's their real life. And like, so they took this movement kind of like what's going on in East LA, and they took this movement like what Born and Raised started that's real and create a brand out of it, and nobody really checked them. But then all of a sudden it's like, wait a second, this is all about taking art. This is all about the bootleg industry, you know, and I think it can be celebrated obviously in times, right? Like the bootleg culture is like, you know, that's real. Like that's how some people make their livelihood. But so you both have experienced serious moments where you've been bootlegged, and you know, coming up in this industry. How do you box them out? How do you keep on that path? I guess that's really where this goes.
I mean, it's different for everybody, for every individual. You know, he's going to have a different tactic to shut down that person. Like, there's brands that have literally ripped off my whole mood board, everything, just down to the T, you know, to every last detail, and they're successful, like probably more successful than I am, you know. Yeah. So it's just like, you got, you know, you can stop it sometimes you can't, you know, but you just got to just keep doing your shit.
Yeah.
You know, you just keep doing your shit, hopefully it's loud enough.
Is that why you say, like, you're only as good as the last photo you taken? Is that because that keeps your...
You're only as good as what you steal.
Yeah, like
are you joking? Or are you
that's a thing.
In the beginning, we used to just beat them up.
Right.
Like, you bootleg our shit, you're getting punched in the face.
Yeah, you can't do that shit no more.
It's that simple, you know? But now, everybody has their phones and this, that, and the other, and it's like, you know, it's a whole different world. There's cameras everywhere. You can't just go mob up on somebody. And like, if you think about it, if you were the company that was bootlegging somebody and you were making a lot of money off of them and you were ripping off their shit, a punch in the face isn't that bad, because you've already made hundreds of thousands or maybe millions off of, you know, these guys. So now, you know, they're going to court and they're getting taken for a lot of money. You know, some people are getting to win a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And it's like, mm-hmm. you know, I'm sure they probably wish they didn't get caught, you know, and they didn't have to pay that money. But yeah, it's I could go every day and make that a full-time job, is going after people that are ripping me off and trying to, you know, figure out a way to get something back from them, you know, getting some of my money back from them. Or I can keep it moving and keep doing new shit. And that's what I think he's saying, is we choose to just keep the ball rolling and keep doing new shit. And because I think there's more for us and in our circles. They get more out of us going forward, you know, instead of stopping what we're doing to go back and deal with this bullshit, you know.
Right.
But that's not to say, like, oh yeah, you can just do whatever the fuck you want to our shit and get away with it, because we're gonna keep it moving.
Yeah, we'll get there with you at some point.
Yeah, we're gonna see you, or we're gonna something. You know, you're not gonna get away with it. Maybe not us. We won't. You know, but maybe somebody else will. Like you know, like how they say, like karma, you know, like something will happen somewhere down the line to where you'd be like, man, why is this happening to me? Maybe it was 100 people that I f***ed over the past, you know, 10 years. That's why this is happening.
Also keep in mind though, I think people forget this, and if anybody out there is listening, like, there's enough money for everybody on the table to eat. You know, there's no point in trying to knock.
You don't have to steal people.
You don't got to knock with somebody else's plate. Like, there's enough money out here for everybody, so everybody gets yours, you know. Don't worry about what the next man is doing. I just keep I'm like a horse with blinders on at this point, because if I gave energy to all that shit, you know, it wastes my whole damn day.
You get stuck.
You know? You get stuck. So
you guys have both made. Do you view yourself almost as like a, because you're obviously a documentarian, you're a photographer, but do you also view yourself in that light as sort of a documentarian as well? Because, and I can argue why, but
it's just, I think Born and Raised is like, I'm documenting what's going on around me constantly. You know, that's why it's real. That's why it keeps spinning. You know, seriously, it would have stopped. It would have stopped a long time ago if it didn't. You know, but I think I'm more of a storyteller, honestly. You know, because I'm telling stories I'm speaking up for a large group of people, but I'm telling stories from before. I'm telling stories about my life, and I'm telling stories about Los Angeles from my perspective, which is, you know, different than most.
When did you get to a stage in Born and Raised where you've now been able to do partnerships with the Dodgers, with Lakers, Dodgers, Lakers, Rams? Am I missing the Kings? Or
I mean, we still got stuff in the works, but
yeah,
I don't know. I think that, like you said, authenticity is key, right? So I think a lot of these people, a lot of these, organizations saw that what we were preaching was authentic and it was real, and they were like, oh, okay, cool, let's do it together.
yeah, because I don't think there's any other LA brands that have had every LA real that people. Dodgers are they represent LA to so many people. That is the emblem of Los Angeles. I don't know if there's any brand that really has gotten that opportunity.
Well, I think that things are changing rapidly, and streetwear has become much more of a mainstream thing at this point. Like everybody consumes it. Supreme just got valued at what, $2 billion. Like,
yeah.
So it's around. I think that we kind of cracked the door open. So I think a lot of it's going to happen.
Do you see it going that direction? Like it's just going to keep?
Yeah, I think streetwear has become like a more of a part of the bigger conversation always at this point. TV shows, sports games, everything. It's always brought up. But the one thing is like,
yeah.
With all these teams and all these, we've been, my great grandma was a Lakers fan, like a diehard Lakers fan, Dodgers too. So the way we tell our story is always going to be different than everybody else's. So I'm not tripping.
So like with Virgil, obviously going from starting something and then you have basically like what we're talking about, getting acquired almost, like, because you're talking about Supreme, it's worth $2 billion. Mm-hmm. He's a corporation. He got acquired by LVMH, and like, would you ever do something like that if somebody offered you $10 million to go creative direct?
Yeah, of course. Why wouldn't I?
Because you could bring the real
listen,
stuff to that,
my whole
right?
shit's been like a Robin Hood
Yeah.
thing this whole time, right? Like,
yeah.
Like even when I work with the Rams, like, yo, let's work with the Rams, but why don't we make a large part of that charity base and let's give back to the people from Inglewood, So like if I'm able to get a CD job somewhere for $10 million, I'm gonna do the same. Because I take like Nipsey shit, like without even thinking about it, like I take that and I put it back, I invest it back into the community.
Yeah.
Myself, my family, my friends. I'm trying to share it with everyone. So I don't view it as selling out or whatever you want to call it. And also, like, if selling out is taking care of your family, because I got a lot of mouths to feed. For real, I got 3 kids. I have I have a lot going on. So if selling out is taking care of your family, then y'all got it backwards.
Right. What was it like working with Netflix and doing that process, and how did you guys?
I didn't work with them at all. I just
you did it all on your own?
No.
Oh, sorry.
We had you have a production company. Like I never talked to Netflix once during the whole thing.
Okay, yeah.
I had a producer, and he was the one who was dealing with them on every level, and I never really. Yeah, I don't think I ever talked to one Netflix person ever. So it was like back then. So people like, they're like, hey, you should do this. You should do another documentary and have it do. Put it out on Netflix. And I'm like, it's not that easy, like I didn't even talk to Netflix, but the people that were working in our production company, they got it signed to Netflix, and then it got put on Netflix. It was supposed to only come out in Latin America, Netflix.
No way.
But then it was shown to like the headquarters up here, and then they liked it, and they were like, but if you look it up, it's LA Originals is a film out of Argentina. So it's not like I came, I'm in LA and I had to hook up with the homies over here, or these people that I knew for, through living in LA, and they hooked me up with a deal. Like I had to go out of town to get my deal, all the way down to Argentina. So that guy had pull in Netflix. So he was able to bring it to the Netflix that he works with in Argentina, and then they were able to bring it up here. So, as far as, and that was like a one-time deal. So it's like every new project I have to pitch to every network again.
Yeah.
So it's like you can get success out of one project, and like as good as that project is, you still have to go and start at the bottom for the next projects that you want to come out and do.
Sure, of course.
So you have to start out just like the last one. You have to start out with a pitch deck and a mood board and all that,
Yeah.
to go and pitch the work and sell yourself to the next company that's going to pick up that project, because they're like, okay, cool, you did that, but you still got to go through the procedures and jump through the hoops and all that if you want to get this one signed or something like that. So it's a constant challenge, and it's always like, the way it gets easier is because you had the experience from the last one.
Yeah.
And whatever that one did, that sets the pace for the next one,
Yeah.
So people are like, okay, cool, he did that project and that was a success. We'll have a meeting with him and we'll respect him a little bit more because of what he did with that last one.
Yeah,
But
it's a heavy documentary.
it's always you're starting at the bottom again. You're starting like, hey, I want to do this project with these people. Okay, cool. Put the pitch deck together and, you can come in and pitch to all these different networks and, you're writing it right there. You're right back to it, whereas you think like somebody would be like, the guy had the #1 documentary on Netflix. He had the #4, movie on all of Netflix. Let's just go give him a couple $1 million to do whatever the he wants, because he's going to do some dope shit.
Right.
And then it doesn't work like that. And a lot of people think it does. But, everybody that's in the industry, they know that, how hard it is. It only took us, I want to say, people are like, hey, how long did it take you to do that movie? And I was like, well, there's 25 years worth of footage, but we started shopping it in the early 2000s. So it only took, about 15, 17 years to do it.
That's crazy.
About 15 years.
Does you think there was a moment in like, in this cultural, moment right now that allowed the window to be open, or what do you think changed?
Nothing changed. It was just 25 years of hard work.
Yeah.
It was
Overnight
overnight success. Yeah. It only took 25 years. We just kept pounding it until, somebody's like, let's do it. And then we went to work.
If you could do a dream project about LA documentary, who would it be about, or
About our crew, the Soul Assassins.
yeah,
And everybody that is in our circle, like he's in our.
would you do the Born and Raised
family.
documentary for Netflix?
I mean, if he said, I want you to do it, and they said,
Yeah.
do you want to do it? I'd be, hell yeah.
There's a lot of
I do a lot of projects with him already.
Yeah, yeah.
Some people know, some don't, but it doesn't matter, It's like, it's just between me and him anyways.
You've shot a lot of Born and Raised content, and as you're saying, you guys have known each other since day one. What are some projects that you guys have worked on? And
If I'm gonna do some LA shit, I'm not gonna use some photographer that's not a part of it. If I do some LA shit for something big, like for the Dodgers or for the Lakers or for the Rams, I'm gonna use my boy. He set the bar.
yep.
He's the one. I can't think of anybody else more set for the job than him. He's my first choice always.
And when you're looking at like how you've actually carved that niche, is it because you have been so authentic, or why do you feel like people are always reaching? I mean, obviously your photos are amazing.
I show up to photo shoots that people don't know me, know nothing about me, and they shit on me, but it's like, because they're like famous, like but
Name names. No, I'm just kidding.
no, I can't do that. But I mean, like I still to this day go to photo shoots and people treat me like I'm like a paparazzi off the street, and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, motherfucker, don't you know who I think I am?
Right.
Like I'm coming at them like, what, this motherfucker disrespect me? But I gotta, like he said, just like the people out here, you don't know what those people are going through in their life or what they have gone through.
Yeah.
So you can't just go in there and think like, I can't go into everywhere and think like, well, everybody's seen my movie because it was big on Netflix, or everybody knows who I've shot or what my pictures are like. And not everybody has to like my pictures, like I don't really do them for that. So when I go into a job and somebody doesn't know me or whatever, I just have to be like, hey, fool, like not everybody knows you. Who gives a f-? Like you probably don't have all their songs either, or you probably don't have all their albums and download it on your phone. So why are you tripping? That's
Yeah.
what I tell myself.
Yeah.
Like, cause at first you're like, man, this fool's like not, he's not really cooperating. So I could take a good picture of him, but maybe he don't feel like having his picture taken today. I don't feel like having my picture taken a lot of days, so I can't imagine what it's like for that person to where everybody's like pulling on their shirt. Hey, come over here and take a picture. Hey, come over here and take a picture. Like maybe that person just wasn't feeling it that day. And I have to think about all that shit in my head. Like, hey man, not everybody's gonna know what your movie was or who you've shot or give a fuck about any of that anyways. But you came here to do a job and don't get butt hurt or all
Yeah.
in your feelings, emo primo, because they don't know who you are or whatever. So just suck it up, take the good fucking picture. That's what you came here for, and get the fuck out of here. That's the shit I go through in my head.
When you shoot a photo of like, Danny Trejo, or you shoot a photo of 50 Cent, or you shoot a photo of the game, and you take that photo, do you go walk away and you're like, that's going to be an iconic photo
No.
that people are going to see, that's going to be the third Google image result of this guy
No way.
forever?
Yeah, no, I don't think like that until I see it.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, hey, that's pretty cool that my photo's like the number 3 when you Google search them,
Yeah, yeah.
But I never walk away just going, fuck, man, I just had the best shoot with Danny Trejo today,
Right.
I walk away thinking like, I hope I got a good photo of him.
Yeah.
Like like Erica Badu sings a song and she goes, I'm an artist, I'm sensitive about my shit.
Yeah.
Like with artists, like the ones that I know, they really like that. They're always like, I'm always thinking like I could have done better.
Right.
I'm never satisfied with what I do until I see it finished and I see like the response and the reaction that it's getting. Like,
Yeah.
because I like to create emotion with my art.
Right.
I see a million pictures that have no feeling behind them. Like I just could walk by them, I don't feel nothing. I'm like, that's cool. It's a nice car or a pretty woman or cool looking setup or whatever. But that's all right. But if you can create some type of emotion with your art, then I think that's when you feel like you got your job done.
And I think that's what's interesting to me, and I think maybe to a lot of people, definitely to a lot of people, but your body of work is very diverse. A large part of your body of work is shooting people. Well, I don't know what the proper term is, but like real people on the streets, unhoused people. You have a very interesting portrait style. How do you identify, like, this is the guy that I'm going to take a crazy photo on, and that's going to become, how did you find that, like, well, I know he was your friend, but the guy with the eye tattoos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Is he
found-
still around? Sorry.
Yeah. He came over yesterday. I met
Glad.
him at a wedding.
Okay.
And it was like at that time it was like like a gangster wedding, so he
Yeah.
was there. So obviously everybody that was there was a friend of a friend or something like that, so I seen him, I was like, hey, you got a cool look,
Yeah.
and I just told him, hey, would you want to do some photos? At that time I have my clothing brand Joker.
Yeah.
So I needed some
course.
new photos for it, and I was like, "Hey man, would you be down to do some photos for my T-shirt line, Joker brand?" And he's like, "Yeah, what is it?" He didn't know about it, so I was like, "Here's some of the shirts," and he's like, "Yeah, let's hook up and meet up," and we went and did some photos right there by the LA River, and after that, just we're friends ever since, and still are, Like, I help him out in a, like he called me from prison last time, and he's like, hey man, I don't know, I'm burnt out on this shit, you know? I don't want to be sitting in these fucking cells no more. I go, well, stop fucking up, homie. He goes, well, what do you mean? And I go, well, I don't know if you see it, but every time I see it, when you fuck up, there's something behind it. And I go, and I think it's every time you start drinking, you know, because when people drink, they get the like, I don't give a fuck attitude.
Yeah.
You know, they
Been there,
get
yep.
that about themselves, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
like I've done it 1,000 times, you know, I've done
Right.
some dumbass shit drunk, you know, or high or whatever,
Yeah.
because you don't give a fuck. So it's like, I don't care. Like, I'm going to do whatever the fuck I feel like doing, and there's consequences to those choices.
Yeah.
And those consequences end you up in places that you don't want to be in, because that's what happens to you when you do shit like that.
Yeah.
So I told him, I think, homie, that maybe you should try not drinking this time when you come out, like this time around, and just see what happens, you know? And he's like, fuck, man, like that's my thing, you know? I was like, well, then just keep doing it. You keep doing everything that you do, and you're going to keep doing what you do, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And there you are. So he was like, I'm going to try, homie. I'm going to give it a shot. He hasn't drank in 3 years.
Oh, wow. So he's like in the program.
No.
Oh, no. Just sober.
Yeah, he just hasn't drank in 3 years.
Yeah.
And guess what? He
He's
hasn't been to prison in 3 years.
Do you guys have a lot of homies who've gotten sober?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my one homie that's in the movie, Levke, Big
Yeah.
Lep, he was a Skid Row regular.
Okay.
And we used to have our office right here, and he'd come
Yeah, wanna ask you
here,
about
get
that.
high,
Yeah.
go there, and, you know, be like, hey, what's up, homie? Can I get a few bucks, you know, or, you know, can we go get something to eat, you know?
Yeah.
Because if I'm not doing nothing and somebody wants to go get something to eat, I'm like, yeah, let's go. Let's
Right.
fucking roll and go kick it.
Right.
So now he's 5 years sober. He runs 17 men's homes, and he's a manager of the home he lives in.
Wow. So that's a real success story right there.
Yeah.
That's insane. So I was wondering, because you've grown up around so much of that, seeing people go in and out of prison, have their lives be really rocked by the streets. Like, yeah, how many success stories do you have?
Not many.
Yeah. Really? Seriously?
Yeah,
It's just
there's very few success stories.
Yeah.
And it's because to be a success in anything, you have to work. You have to work hard. So if you want to be successfully, you know, not a drug addict or addicted to alcohol or drugs, you have to work at it.
Yeah.
And you got to put in the work.
Right.
If you don't want to live that fucked up life no more, then you got to put in work to
Right.
live a better life. Or you can just accept, you know, the least and
Yeah.
just be like, F- it. This is me. This is all I'll ever be, and I'm just gonna keep doing it this way. Or you can be like, I want better. I want more. I want to work hard for it. I am gonna work hard for it, and I'm gonna get all that shit that I want. I want a better life for myself. I want more in my life. I want my kids. I want a job. I want my own apartment. I want a car. It doesn't have to be a fucking Porsche or a Ferrari. Maybe it's a little bucket, but I want it. And I don't want to be out here, you know? Well, what do you have to do for that? What got you there, you know? So you have to think about, how can I help myself? And a lot of people don't like to admit that they have a problem or that they're doing something wrong. So that's probably the biggest part of it, is admitting to yourself that, you know, you got a problem. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people are prideful with asking for help. Mm-hmm. So they never get it.
Yeah.
You know, because I don't want to ask, or I don't want to, you know, impose, or, you know, I don't have a problem. So it's like, you know, then you just got to settle for that shit. Whatever you get, that's what you're settling for.
Is that something that you personally are able to do? Are you able to
Yeah,
ask for help when you're in those situations?
Yeah, I'll ask people for help. Or I'm down to work. I'm down to work circles around people.
Yeah.
Like I work. So I think that's what's helped me get to where I'm at is I, I'm I'm down to work harder than most.
And you sound like you are able to be humble when you're talking about the pride element of asking for help.
Yeah, if I need help, like say, he's not new to it, but he's newer to the clothing industry than I am.
Yeah.
Been doing it since '92.
Yep.
There's some shit that I don't know that he does know because he's more involved in it than I am.
Yep.
So I'll call him up and be like, "Hey, homie, where can I get this? Where can I get that? Oh, I'll shoot it to you right now." Within seconds, I'm getting a text of that connect. Like, you can go here to get that. Go here to get your shirts, get blanks, or you can go here to get your shirts embroidered or your shirts screen printed or whatever the question is. Within seconds, I'm getting it. 20 years ago, you didn't get that. Nobody was helping you. Like, motherfuckers were just not giving up anything. They'd be like, "Oh, I don't know, man. I'm looking for somebody too." Like, say a silk screener.
Yeah.
Like today, somebody hit me up like, "Hey, where do you get your shirts done?" I forwarded them the number where I get my shirts done right away.
Right.
Tell them I sent you. 20 years ago, nobody would do that shit for you. God damn, homie, you can't find a silk screener? Fuck, man, I'm looking for one too. I don't know. I'm like, damn, these motherfuckers lying. They're lying.
Sure.
But, like I said, like I don't know it all, and I'm always down to learn. How they say you can't teach an old dog new tricks? Well, maybe the old dog ain't willing to learn new tricks. And I'm one that's willing to learn, Like I learn new shit every day.
Yeah.
Every day I learn something. And I love it, Like that's one of the things like, damn, man, I just learned this today. I learned that today. Like I'm pumped up.
That's such an important message. I just want you to know, like, that is what is so, like, that's the dynamic that probably is the difference maker between somebody growing up and not having the drive to pivot into success. It sounds like it's pride and it's being a learner. And that's what I'm hearing and I'm learning too from just this conversation is you're saying, I always learn something. I'm an old dog who wants to, you're humble, you're willing to have an open mind. If somebody doesn't know who you are, I'm just going to keep, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, I mean, it's a really powerful lesson, especially tying it back to mental health too. It's like, yeah, man, like if you need help, reaching out for help when you need it. Like that's how you get out of your circumstances, your situation. It's how you get off the street. We were just talking about it while you're in the restroom, but like, do you feel like pride and an ability, because we were talking about asking for help when you need help and how that's allowed him to grow and learn and get elevated. Is that a skill that you've taken, and is that what you see with the people who in your circle I didn't make it? And
one of the smartest things I ever learned was how much I didn't know. Seriously.
No, I feel, yeah.
Yeah, like I realized after being in it for a while, I was like, I got a lot to learn, and I'm not afraid to ask for help ever, I mean, being a creative too is not easy, man. Like, I've been doing this for 10 years. Like if your work can get stagnant just like that, like you said, it just go away. So you have to constantly keep up with what's going on,
Yeah.
So no, I'm not afraid to ask for anything. And then back to what he said also, it's like it's fight or flight, or it's like sink or swim, right? Like we don't really have the luxury. So like we're going to figure out how to make it, regardless.
Yeah.
Regardless. Like,
So it's survivalist too. It's not even just like
There was a lot of faking it till you make it. For us in the beginning, like people would say, "Hey, can you do this or can you do that?" And right away I would say, "Yeah." Like, "Can you do this? Can you do that?" "Yeah, I could do it." And I'd be like, "Fuck, I committed myself to this shit. Now I need to go learn how to figure it out because I want that opportunity."
Yep.
So I would go and find out, like, "Hey, how do I do this? How do I do that?" And I would ask people and I would figure it out. And then maybe if it was like a job, I would hire somebody that knew also that could help me with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that I wouldn't have to, one, look like an idiot, like I didn't know, or two, turn down the opportunity. You know, I was like, I need to do that.
That is, that's such a powerful lesson. It's great for this conversation too, because when we're talking about being a recovery program, in a sense, like the difference between having life on the streets, growing up in LA, growing up in circumstances that you guys come from, it sounds like you have always said, I'm going to work hard to get out of this situation. Do you agree? Is that,
Yeah.
is it just being, I know you worked as a bouncer and had a day job. Am I wrong?
Yeah, no, I did construction during the day, like 10, 12-hour day, and then I'd go work at a club for 6 hours with all the drunk, you know, dummies that thought they were somebody, you know, or acting, you know, like, hey, because I worked in the Hollywood club, so it was a whole different thing than any other club you go to. Most clubs in most cities you go to, there's not the entitlement and the privilege like here, you know, like everybody thinks that they should be on the guest list and that any rules don't apply to them. It's like, hey, I'm here with 10 people. Nobody knows I was coming, but I'm on the guest list. And you're like, you're not on this guest list, you know? Yeah, I know so-and-so or so-and-so. I know them. I'll call them right now. Okay, cool. Take your 10 people right over there and call them and let them tell me. But I got 100 more people that want to get in the club. So it's like that kind of shit all night long. And then I have to go to bed at like 2:30 in the morning, get up at 7 and go do construction.
Where were you living?
In Hollywood.
Oh, you were living in Hollywood. Where'd you grow up?
I had an apartment on the west side all over.
But where were you born in LA?
Santa Monica.
You were born in Santa Monica?
Yeah, St. John's.
You go to Samo?
Yep.
I was born in St. John's, bro.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. But I went to Samo and then I went over to Olympic.
Okay.
And then I got in a little trouble and my mom moved me to San Diego with my dad's side of the family.
Okay.
My last quarter semester. So I graduated, you know, over there. I had no friends. They're like, hated everybody from LA over there. They're like, fuck that dude, he's from LA.
Right.
The only ones that were cool to me were the girls, so.
It's funny how everybody
really
from
hated
LA
me.
is the LA guy to everybody else when they're in a different place.
Yeah.
Always,
They even call you LA.
Yeah.
Hey, LA. And you're like, you know right away, you know, like, come over here, and you know, like every time you like, even if they'll call you like the city, you know, whatever.
Yeah. What, Spanto, I want to tie you into that. When did you get your first, like, because it sounds like this was how you got introduced to Hollywood and like how the entertainment industry worked. How did you get your first insight into that? Into
Hollywood?
Mm-hmm.
I think I was kind of lucky because I always hung out with people older than myself, you know. You remember when like Jackson and them used to work the door at LA or like Las Palmas and LAX and all that stuff?
Yeah, all those guys worked like under me when I first was working in the door. And then I went on tour, and then they were the new door guys.
So you were the one who made it out of the crew. Did you guys always have like a guy who like made it that was the example, or?
Yeah, I think, you know, like for me, I probably got into it because I used to fake my ID. It was 66, and I would make the 6 a 0, and I used to go to the clubs with a fake ID. And so then I started seeing all like the way Hollywood worked, and I was like, man, this is cool. Like these are like the cool parties, you know, because I was used to going to other parties like backyard parties or whatever, but it was different when you come to like Hollywood parties. Like shit was a little bit more wild, you know.
The land of opportunity. There's
just
so much shit going on.
That's what I'm curious
like
about.
I remember going to a Halloween party
right
in Laurel Canyon one time. I think I was like 17 years old.
Yep.
17 or 18. I remember I was just young as and like there was it was at the Houdini mansion.
Yeah.
And there was a tunnel that went underneath
Natalia
Laurel
lived
Canyon.
at one of the mansions. Yeah.
And you could go to the other house, and there was all these different rooms, and it was like a real Hollywood movie, like we were going into things and you would like see, like there was a crazy ass mansion party, like thousands of people were at this house for a party for Halloween. And you'd be walking down the hallway and there was a door and you're like, oh, I wonder what's in this room. And you open the door and there's like two people in there in like costumes and shit. You're like, whoa, shit, that's crazy. And then you go to another room and people are partying, you know, doing drugs or whatever. You're like, oh, damn, this is like in the movies, you know?
Right.
But
it's
it was
real.
real.
Yeah, it happens. Yeah.
There's no cameras, no nothing. It was like,
it's LA.
It was cracking. And so I was like, man, I kind of like this like lifestyle, you know, like you'd go to a club and then there's like, hey, there's an after party at this house in Hollywood Hills. And you're like, well, whose house is it? Don't worry about it. Just go up there. Here's the address. And you go up in this house and this wild shit going on. After hours, like people are lit. It was like, that was really lit back then.
Yeah.
Like people were having the time of their life. So I was like, man, I want to get into this a little bit more. This is kind of cool. And so I started, you know, going around the clubs and meeting all the club people, and then I started working at them, and I knew everybody. And everybody had to go through me to get into the club, so I knew everybody. Like, everybody is, like, on a first-name basis, because back then there wasn't no bottle service or nothing like that, so everybody blended in with each other. Like, you could be the most famous dude in Hollywood drinking at the bar with just regular Joe with like a minimum wage job and just be cool chopping it up. Like, hey, what's up? You see him at the club the next week. Hey, what's up, man? Hey, what's up, man? How do you know him? I was kicking it with him last time, you know, I was here at the club. You know, we were partying together, drinking together, whatever. But now it's like, you know, bottle service and all this money and, you know, all this different shit. That's my goon squad right there. But, you know, times have changed a lot, you know, so it is what it is, but that's how I got introduced into this world, and I just ran with it.
It's a fantastic tool, because you can, you know, like you can send 1 million emails, have 1 million cups of coffee, do your LA lunches, but where this shit really happens is around a fucking nightclub table where there's alcohol. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of people have that. Because LA is really that. Like, people don't realize that is really LA. Like, you can grow up in, and this is also what you hear from, like, the Odd Future kids, too, because they're, like, an LA collective that came up from a different part of LA, but, like, the streets, too. It's like, you can literally grow up in the poorest part of the city and one day wind up, like, you know, passed out at someone's mansion. Like, it's just like as long as you're connecting and like and linking, LA is so tiny, and like you can vertically climb in like 2 seconds. But obviously there's a difference between actually
or you can get blackballed.
Something. Yeah.
In 2 seconds.
In 2 seconds you can lose it all, too.
You fuck yourself off real quick here.
Yep. And I think that's what sucks people in, and they're gone, right? Like, that's
you do the wrong shit to the wrong person in 2 seconds. Not even in like a gangster way or a violent way. Like, you just say the wrong thing and the wrong person heard you say that shit, you're out.
Yep.
And it's crazy. Like, I've seen people like come here with their life savings from out of town, and they said something to the wrong person or to the wrong girl who was this guy's daughter or some shit like that.
Yeah.
Gone. Your little fantasy is over. Go take your broke ass back home, back to your city, wherever the fuck you came from, with your tail between the legs, and that's it.
I see the city gobble people up and spit them out, send them back home a lot.
Back home, yeah. But coming from LA, though, do you feel like you had an extra advantage of like knowing
of course.
how to navigate?
You have the home team advantage.
Sure.
That's what I love
we
about
like-
his clothes. Not only he's my friend and everything, but just to be able to wear that shit that you're fucking born and raised here is crazy. Because this is probably one of the biggest cities in the world that has the most transplants.
Yep.
You know, like I've been to big cities like Paris, Tokyo, you know, big cities in different countries and different parts of the world, and there was hardly any foreigners here, like people that weren't from that city.
Yeah.
Like, you go to other big cities and there's some people, you know, that moved there, transplanted there for whatever reason, but not like LA. There wasn't like, you know, everybody's coming here to be a singer or in a band,
you can do anything
or
you want in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Jesus, I'm a fashionista. Actually, now I'm a DJ. I'm a model.
Do you think you can manifest things in LA better than you can other places?
I think it's easier here. Like you do this shit in New York, they're gonna be like, nope, that's not you. Get the fuck out of here. But LA, you can reinvent yourself fucking 8 times until something sticks. I see people do it all the time.
How many times have you seen the guy or the girl or the person where they are suddenly a entrepreneur or something, or they're suddenly like, everybody has a clothing brand in LA. We all know that, but it's like,
I've seen guys that have no talent. Their talent is a mouthpiece, and they bullshit everybody with that mouthpiece, and they're millionaires now, just from talking shit. Like, I got this, I did that, I did this, and really they didn't do it. It was somebody else's shit. They were fronting like they did it, and now they're millionaires, literally.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at that just going, God damn, like I've been working so hard, and I got talent that you could see. Not just I'm saying it, you could see that shit. And I still got to work like a motherfucker,
That's a really good connection to the next phase of where when you came up, because you now were suddenly touring with the biggest group, literally, like at the moment. They're like the squad killing it. How did you know at that point? Because there's no Instagram.
Yeah.
How did you know, like, okay, I should be filming this? Because you basically vlogged the whole thing, but in an artistic way. Like, how did you think that this would someday be valuable to somebody?
I never thought that.
Okay, you just did it.
Yeah, I just was doing it, and I thought, like, because that wasn't my job.
Yeah.
My job was the tour manager. My job was to make sure everybody woke up to get the car or to get on the bus, to go to the next show, to go to the airport, to catch the flight on time, to be at the interview on time, to be at the show on time, to make sure that all that ran smooth. There was no ups in any part of the day for my whole team. I had to be in a security, a dad, a psychiatrist, a fucking accountant. That was my job. On my time off, I would take my little camera and take a couple pictures here and there. And then there was a guy that I met later on, like in 1997. His name was Martin. He gave me a Super 8mm camera. He's all, hey man, you should shoot with this and see if you can make this footage look as cool as your photos. And that's what I started doing. And then I started directing music videos, and after that I started filming on a regular and taking more and more photos. But at first I wasn't really into it. I thought it was kind of goofy if you carried a camera around. Like, imagine, like, now cameras are normal.
You're like a hipster. Yeah, you're like, what the hell is this guy doing?
Before there was even hipsters came after all the hard work we had to do to make that shit look cool. So imagine, like, who used to walk around with a Canon A1 around their neck with a strap?
Nobody.
Tourists and paparazzis.
Right, sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So do you want to, is that the look you're going for? You want to be all cool with a fucking 3X shirt, all iron and creased up, and your fucking 50 Levi's all creased up, and some brand new Cortez shoes, and you're rolling around with a camera with a strap? That looks lame,
Yeah.
So I didn't really bust out the camera on a regular basis, and except for around people that I felt comfortable with.
Okay.
Which was the homies that I would tour with, or the homies that I was low riding with in my car club. And we'd go to shows, and I'd see somebody that I thought looked cool. I'd be, hey homie, can I get a flick? Yeah, go for it. But that being said, like, photography wasn't the cool thing to do back then, especially in the circles that I was in. So it was hard for me to make it to where I felt comfortable, and then to make it cool with my people.
What was it also like? There was a day when you could not see the photo that you took for
days or months. Like, I was on tour for a month or two. I couldn't see the photos until I got home. So I would come home with 40 rolls of film that I needed to get developed, and it would take like a week for them to do that shit. So I was coming home, not knowing what kind of photos I was getting or what I was doing. and I would see him after, and then all the homies would come over to my pad because it was like the hangout pad, and they'd be like, "Hey, let me see the pictures from the tour." So I'd show them. They're like, "Hey, homie, like, you take some badass pictures." And I'd be like, "Let me see your pictures," and they'd bring out their pictures, and it was like, there you could tell the difference right away, like the difference between a photo that was taken, with some care, and a photo that was taken with like I don't give a type of camera. So
Yeah.
that was that.
And so at this time though, you're a tour manager,
Right.
and you're not a professional photographer.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just show them these photos, and they're like, "Oh, why don't we submit this to like a news, like a magazine?"
Yeah, I did that.
And you were like, "Okay."
Because I was a tour manager, so I was the one in contact with all the magazines to set up the interviews for the band.
So you literally
I would be like,
created this opportunity.
yeah,
out
I
of
would
your
say, "Hey, man,"
circumstances.
because I felt bad because I would give like for the record label would fax me a press schedule every day. It was like, "Hey, get the band to do this press. Just take 1 hour of their time. There's 4 media outlets. So if you divide 4 into an hour, it's 15 minutes."
Wait. You can't just bounce. You can't just bounce. You can't just bounce on
They
us,
say
bro.
hi to the camera.
I was gonna slowly fade away.
No, but I'm curious. Before you depart, I do want to know, like, so we didn't really touch as much about Skid Row with you, and I wanted to know what your thoughts are about the current state of Skid Row before you leave.
I don't really have an answer for that, like.
Or homelessness in general, just around the city. Like, have you seen it grow?
The last, I think particularly in the last 4 years, it's gotten pretty crazy,
The past year has gotten stupid crazy.
Obviously because of
Yeah.
COVID and stuff, but even pre-COVID, I
Fuck.
feel like the last 4 years have gotten kind of crazy. And I don't like, my dad was homeless, like I have lots of family members that are homeless. Like I have lots of mentally ill family members.
Yeah.
I told you, I feel like sometimes I'm almost homeless,
Sure.
So I like,
Yep.
whatever we can do to help. I don't know what the right answer is because it's so complicated for each individual of what they need in terms of help and assistance. Some people want it, some people don't. Some people are just. It's such a tricky, sticky situation. So I just think we all just have to be compassionate.
The other
just
thing
help as
is
much as we
too.
can.
Yeah, the other thing is too is like when you, like, there's no way to keep somebody in a facility because they're an adult. They can just walk out and leave at any time. So like, how do you help somebody that you can't hold them long enough to help them? Like I've tried to help people in my family that had drug addictions and stuff.
Yeah.
I'll take them to the recovery place, or what what do they call them? I can't even
Rehab
fucking think
or-
of it. Yeah,
yeah.
I take them to the rehab,
Yeah.
and they'd be like, "Okay, see you later. Thank you, man. Thank you for bringing me here. Everything's gonna change. I love you. Don't worry, I'm good. I'm in the right place now." I'd be like, "Okay, fuck." Go get in my car, and I'm like, "Whew, man, I feel so much better. My loved one's gonna get help, and this is great, man." Now I don't have to worry about that no more. I go home 2 days later. I'm like, I wonder how they're doing. And I call them. They go, "Oh, we can't tell you because of HIPAA or whatever." I go, "Man, I just put down money and gave you money. I just want to know if my family member is there or not. Like, you don't have to tell me all the drama with the HIPAA and all that shit." And they go, "Well, you didn't hear from us, but they're not here. Like
Fuck.
your family member left." I'm like, "Well, goddamn." So now it's like
Yeah.
I'm right back into that ugly feeling
Right.
of before I got them in the car to take them to the rehab. So it's like,
Yeah.
like he's saying, there's a lot of people that don't want help, or they don't know how to get help. But even when you do get them help, they don't stay, and there's nothing to hold them there.
Yeah.
Because they're adults. And like back in the day, I guess they used to be like you could drop somebody off, and they were stuck there for 3 months.
Yeah.
I hope that, Skid Row is always going to be a place that they can come back to if they do decide to come back to. I hope this place doesn't disappear like the rest of the city. I think that Skid Row should always be a part of Los Angeles. You know?
Yeah. It seems like the borders keep closing in, right?
It's just they keep either moving them around or making it smaller. You know, it's just, you know, things change. But I hope that Skid Row and the mission is always here for people that do want help, that, you know, that genuinely want it.